Welcome in, backpackers, to another edition of Off Grid. My name is Dave, and this channel is all about backpacking, hiking, camping, and gear. If you like those things too, do me a favor and consider subscribing to the channel. New year here in 2024, so let's just dive right into an old playlist favorite. I'm talking about my backpacking hacks and pro tips series. Not sure if I can put it up in the cards. If I can, I'll do that. If I can put it in the description, I'll put it down there as well. Either way, you can find it on the channel. I have a playlist already. This is part 5 already, the 5th video in the series. I can't believe it, but it has a little bit of traction, has a little bit of popularity on the channel, so figured I'd throw in a new one here for the new year. So let's get into the 5 that I have for you this week. The first of which is going to be to tie an umbrella to your backpack for a hands-free sun cover experience when you're out on trail. But when you're at camp, what you can do is with a couple of bungees, you can strap it to one of your trekking poles and kind of have like a covered seating area if you also bring a backpacking chair with you, so that you can get that sun protection when you're at camp as well. So this is primarily for, I would say, mostly us West Coasters who have those bright sun exposed kind of days where we don't get a lot of respite from the sun. We're not really in the East Coast green tunnel that inhabits a lot of that area. So in dealing with more of the sun's rays out here, particularly because we're not in foresty areas in a lot of different sections, we don't really have to worry about getting snags on our umbrella and stuff like that. So this one here is just by Gossamer Gear. It's one of my favorites. It's one of the lightest on the market, less than 7 ounces. But again, I have a couple of bungees that I'll use on my shoulder strap here, so you can just, throw the umbrella up when you're on trail. Tip number 2 here that I got for you this week is to think about doubling up on your socks. And this is particularly for you guys who have a problem with blisters here. Let me show you what I mean here. I got a couple of different options. Don't worry, these are clean. But I like to go with a pair of the Injinjis. And this is, I think, is their midweight, but you can go with their liner as well, something a little bit lighter and a little bit thinner in overall, thread count or weight or whatever. And then throw something like this over. It's like a darn tough, just normal style, like tube sock. And this is also their crew. You can get one that's a little bit higher, but this one is only like maybe ankle high. So if you wanted to get the ankle version of this, you can probably double that up as well. But this combo for me works really well. I was noticing that I was getting blisters after like, 10-ish mile days or more on trail. And so I started off with the Darn Toughs, and I was getting blisters, and then I switched over to the Injinjis because of the toe spread, and I was still ended up getting blisters, probably because this is a little bit thinner of a material. So this again is a shout out to Leonidas on the Trail. I heard this from him, and he had mentioned in a comment, have you ever thought about like doubling them up? So I tried this on trail and it works like a charm. Like I haven't gotten a blister at all. The other thing that you might want to consider if that still isn't doing it for you is to maybe forego one of these and just go with a toe protector. They make like silicone toe protectors that you can use. I had first used those when I was in sports and getting blisters that way, and those work particularly well also, but they're a little bit, like you feel them more. It's kind of like on your brain a little bit more when you're on trail. So this dual sock method works really well for me, and then you can also combo this up if you like to use waterproof socks for those water crossings. You just take off the Darn Tough here and then just go with your normal liner again with your Injinjis, and then use your waterproof sock on top of this, and you are good to go, blister free and keeping those feet dry at the same time. All right, tip number 3 here is going to be to adjust your trekking poles for when you're going up and down hills. I'm going to do, I know I did a beginner basics on trekking poles video. I'm definitely going to do a more advanced series and like tips and tricks on how to use trekking poles specifically, and this tip is going to probably be in that video as well. So if you're interested in that, make sure you stick around. And this is just a generic tip here that when you're going uphill to lower your pole a little bit, and when you're going downhill to extend it not all the way and take the section out like I just did, but to extend it a little bit higher. And the reason for that is because you're at 90-degree angle now. When you're going uphill versus downhill is going to be a little bit different, right? When you're going uphill, you're putting the pole in a little bit higher, and when you're going downhill, you'd have to reach a little bit further. So if you extend it a little bit more when you're going downhill, you're saving your arms and your knees that way, and then when you lower it a little bit when you're going uphill, you're primarily saving your arms, so you don't have to reach up as high for each one of your steps when you're planting this pole into the ground. All right, that is 3. We're already through 3 here. Moving right along to number 4. The 4th tip that I have for you this time, it might be a little bit controversial here, so just hear me out, but it is to bring a pea bag with you. And there are I don't know, it's kind of a taboo topic. Not a lot of people like to discuss it, but I'm diving right in head first on this one here. And you might be thinking, well, that just looks like a sandwich bag. What the heck are you using with this thing? You can use a more permanent bottle, wide mouth bottle, whatever, for you fellas out there. But my argument here is for the slightly less environmentally safe plastic bag here, for a couple of different reasons here. And it has to be a very specific model. So I had mentioned this briefly in the past, but I'm going to dive into it right here, right now. This is just the Great Value brand right here that I like to use, but there's a few different things that you have to think about if you're thinking about bringing a pea bag / pea bottle. If you're bringing this style right here, it has to be a quart size. Don't get a sandwich size or a snack size, because you're probably going to run out of space. The second tip here is to make sure that you get a freezer size quart bag, so that the material is just a little bit thicker. I'm pretty sure that like a regular walled bag would be okay, maybe, but the freezer is going to definitely make sure that it's going to hold up and is a little bit more durable. The third thing that I can mention is to get the flat bottom here. Obvious example right here, right, is to make sure that, let me fill it with a little bit of air here, that you know, when you're done using it, I would recommend just opening up your door and putting it in your vestibule. But when you're done using it here, that it can stand up on its own, so you don't have to worry about it falling over and potentially leaking. But another pro tip there, open up your door real quick and just kind of like put it outside your vestibule instead of leaving it inside your tent. And then the second to last, I'll mention one other thing. Second to last thing here is to make sure that you got the slide closure and not the one where you have to press it together, for obvious reasons, right? Easier to use, easier to close, and a little bit easier when you're kind of, you know, still in sleep mode. And the last tip that I would mention here, whether it's the permanent bottle that you're using or one of these, is to write that it is obviously dedicated for pee on the outside, so you don't mistake it for some other, you know, bottle or stuff sack. You don't want to be drinking out of this this bag here, right? And then obviously when you get home, make sure that you rinse it out and, you know, with soap and everything, and clean it real good. All right, that's what, well, there's one other thing that I want to mention about this. It might not necessarily be just for guys. I know that there are devices that women can use to pee in the outdoors as well. So you might be able to use that in conjunction with this as well. It has a really wide opening here, so might not just be for the guys. Obviously, I can't say because I'm not a girl, but ladies, check it out as well. Now that's obviously for us people who are a little bit more lazy and don't want to get outside of our tent at night. But there are definitely the purists that just say, just get up and go pee outside. So some people just don't think it's that big of a deal. All right, over to my last tip that I have for you today, and it is going to reiterate, and I've mentioned this a couple times before on the channel, but have some navigation backups. So you have the paper maps that I would always recommend whenever you're going to a trailhead. If they have one, just grab one, have that as a backup, but that's really great. But I have yet to really use one of those actively. Like, I've always ended up using technology when I'm on the trail and heading out there before I preload my phone with an offline map so that I can reference that. However, and a lot of people use that and that's fine, but you have to whip that out constantly. You're at intersections, maybe constantly on the trail, and you're like, which way do I go, left or right or straight or whatever, and for how long and how far, and let me look at the topos, and that could really drain your battery, particularly if you're taking shots and video and stuff like that as well. So I would also mention preloading the courses onto a smartwatch as well, whether you have the Apple smartwatch, or I like the Garmin series, particularly if you have like a solar version of a black and white Garmin like the Instinct, then it's going to be hard to drain that thing of its juice and its battery power. This is going to be the most efficient for you on trail for your energy uses as well, because you're not using your phone as much, you're using your watch, and yes, it drains the watch a little bit, but also the battery in the watch is not that big, right? Your phone is going to take up a lot more juice from your battery bank to charge that back up. So preload those onto a smartwatch, and then you can kind of get like turn-by-turn directions just by looking at your wrist. So you don't have to whip out your phone, unlock it, get to the app, and look it up. You just look down on your wrist and you have turn-by-turn directions. Made a video on that, still my most popular one ever. If you haven't checked that one out yet, head on over and check that one out. But that's all I got for you today. That's another roundup, another 5 backpacking hacks and pro tips for you guys. What do you think of those tips today? Let me know all about it in the comments down below. Thank you very much to everybody for being a part of this community. Again, if you haven't subscribed yet and you found this video useful, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, share it out to anybody that you think could get use of this video. It really helps out the channel. I can't reiterate that enough. And yeah, that's gonna do it for this one, guys. So thanks so much for watching this week. And remember, if you're headed off grid, make sure you do your research and you make it a safe one, and I'll catch you on the next one. Whether you get the permanent one or not, make sure that you write your name here. Write your name. Write your name on your pea bag so you know that it's your pea bag and not somebody else's.